This book is also known as, I and My Short-Lived Wife. We have traveled together, crossing the Douluo Continent with Fucaros. He unexpectedly gained the power of the ancient dragon and became the Water Dragon King. I am already a perfect dragon, capable of judging the Douluo gods. Tide, I have returned. Years later, only a harmonious Douluo Continent remains, filled with love and justice everywhere. Fucaros. I treat you like a friend. What short-lived, wife, and so on. It's embarrassing. Gu Yuna. Why is this Water Dragon King so powerful? Xian Renshue said, Tang San or something, go to the side of death, I don't know him. Fucaros. Faucet, don't cry. Can't I promise you yet? Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Reincarnated Water Dragon King, wife Fucaros no pop-ups, Douluo. Reincarnated Water Dragon King, wife Fucaros complete collection download TXT, Douluo. Reincarnated Water Dragon King, wife Fucaros latest chapter reading. Chapter 101. My Short-Lived Wife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 101. My Short-Lived Wife. Pain, it hurts too much. Mi Huyo, you have no heart. My Short-Lived Wife. There are two water gods, one is a god who has not seen the sun and moon, and the other is a human who has not heard of the name of the god. They have been deceiving the heavens and the Dragon King for 500 years, only asking the maple pill to exchange for a new heaven. Head hanging sword, jade feet dancing gracefully, sinners dancing and spinning. Tears welled up, power returned, and no one was declared guilty. The beginning of the prophecy can only be answered by one person. At the end of the story, only one person did not return. Fucaros Funina head hanging sword, dancing gracefully, sinners dancing with swirling steps. Under the crown of tears, one bears hardships alone, and one flows to play with others. The young man looked at the screen on the computer, unable to hold back his tears. At the moment when Fucaros died, his heart trembled and his hands trembled. The God of justice, if he does not return the power of Gu Long, it is unjust. If we don't save the people of Fengdan, it's inhumane. But this requires her to endure 500 years of loneliness, combined with her own life perhaps due to excessive sadness. The young man's eyes closed and his life passed like this. Outsiders, your journey has come to an end. The world has rejected you. What? When the young man was confused, he vaguely heard something and couldn't remember it very clearly. Faucet, don't cry. Neville Wright, don't be sad. As you regain the power of Gulong, you should be happy. Besides, it seems like. Novelette. Douluo Continent, Jiando Empire, Soto City. So, that's why I call it Neville Wright. Youth, no, it should be said that Villette. He looked at the old man in front of him with a bewildered expression and said. When he first crossed the world, he still had some doubts, was he dead? According to convention, if you accidentally travel, you will travel back to the game you were playing, the novel you were reading, the movie, or the TV series you were watching during your lifetime. But he was clearly playing Genshin Impact. Why did he cross to Douluo Continent? Is it because he flipped through the original works of Douluo Continent while he was idle and bored? The old man nodded and said, speaking of this, you are quite strange, Xiao Naowei. When I found you, I was about to give you a name, and you said something about, Villette yourself. As soon as I heard it, this name is so good, much better than my Lexus. And then, I'll give you the name Navulet. Lexus smiled and said. I don't know what's going on, but Villette suddenly asked him today about the origin of his name. It has been almost 6 years since this happened, but he still remembers it vividly. It's really novel, because a baby can actually speak. This is also one of the reasons why he took Novelette as his adopted grandson. Novelette was stunned, because his memories of his past life had just awakened, and the mystery of the fetus had been completely unraveled, with some discomfort. The old man in front of me, named Lexus, is a Horcrux-level terrifying powerhouse. He is also the head of one of the 8 hidden clans. When it comes to the 8 hidden clans, one cannot help but mention the soul fighting field, because in the entire Douluo Continent, except for the soul fighting field in the martial Soul City, which is not related to the 8 clans, all other soul fighting fields are established by the 8 clans. The 8 major families do not participate in any disputes on the Douluo Continent and only set up soul fighting fields with peace of mind, which is also one of the reasons why no one has found fault so far. In addition, their own strength is also very important. The 8 hidden clans, each with at least one powerful soul warrior level, are equivalent to having at least 8 soul warriors. Is it necessary to offend or eliminate such a force that does not participate in any disputes? Don't underestimate a soul Douluo. The lower 4 sect leaders are just powerful at the soul Douluo level. Lexus has a peculiar and very free-spirited personality, and as his adopted grandson, Neville does not share the same surname as Lexus, which is not very strange. Besides, that Villette was picked up and won't inherit the martial soul of their family. It's not the same surname, is it better? At the very least, the legitimate members of the family would not oppose the existence of Novelette. Zayanawe, tomorrow is your 6th birthday. Don't have any burden, even if you can't become a soul master, my pocket money will be enough for you to be carefree for a lifetime. Lexus patted Villette's shoulder and said seriously. At first, Lexus saw that Neville was naturally different from other children and could speak. He believed that he had exceptional talent and would definitely make a difference in the future. Therefore, he adopted him as an adopted grandson instead of sending him to the orphanage in the soul fighting field after so many years. Lexus had long regarded Neville as his own grandson. He lived a carefree and unrestrained life without any offspring. The appearance of Neville brought some changes to his later years. The awakening of the martial soul and becoming a soul master is the most important thing on the Douluo Continent. If Neville awakens his martial soul tomorrow and lacks soul power, he cannot become a soul master. With the savings of his Laxios, not to mention making Neville carefree for a lifetime, he will never be able to spend it all. Of course, it is not allowed to spend money recklessly. After hearing these words, Neville regained his senses, and then couldn't help but twitch the corner of his eye. Does he look like someone with a burden? He's just struggling about why he's called that Villette. Forget it, let's settle for it. Everything that used to be is already a thing of the past. Now that I have arrived in Douluo Continent, I am still thinking about crossing the past, but it's just a matter of seeking trouble. Thinking of this, Neville was not entangled either. Fate had given him this name in this life, so his martial soul probably wouldn't be any worse, would it? There is no way. The awakening of the martial soul is not controllable. He is an outsider or an orphan, the kind found by Lexus. What is a martial soul? That Villette really has no bottom. Old man, I haven't awakened my martial soul yet, testing my soul power. What kind of discouraging words to say. Upon hearing these words, Lexus was taken aback. Yes, even before his martial soul awakened, he had already figured out a way out for Villette. Soul Master, one should move forward without hesitation. Ha ha ha. Zayanawe was right, it was Grandpa who said it wrong. My grandson is naturally intelligent and can speak in less than 2 months. He definitely looks like a soul master. Lexus stroked his beard with a spirited expression and said. As soon as he said this, Neville only felt a chill in his back and his whole body numbed. Dear Grandpa, can we not set up such flags at this time? The previous one said that my son Wang had the posture of a great emperor. What a tragic ending. This was something that Villette couldn't answer, but his expression was very strange. His conflicted expression really puzzled Laxios. End of this chapter. Chapter 202. Fufu Carlos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 202. Fu. Fucaros. For people on the Douluo Continent, the age of 6 is an important moment in determining their lifelong destiny. It has been 6 years since Neville traveled. Today is an important moment for him to awaken his martial soul. Unlike ordinary civilians who awaken their martial souls, the time they awaken their martial souls is not necessarily on their 6th birthday, but on a certain day of the year, with the help of the deacon of the martial soul hall to awaken their martial souls. Large families or elders with soul masters can help children awaken their martial souls when they are 6 years old. Of course, wealthy commoners can also use soul coins to awaken their martial souls in the martial soul hall. Zayanawe, don't be nervous. Close your eyes and feel your martial soul with your heart. During this process, Grandpa will guide you with soul power. Unlike weak Kun deacons like Su Yuntao, Laxios helps awaken his martial soul without the assistance of the awakening stone. The use of awakening stones as an aid is to avoid insufficient soul power during the awakening process, which may lead to awakening failure. Lexus is a powerful warrior at the level of Soul Douluo, with soul power as deep as the sea, and naturally does not require the assistance of awakening stones. Even he did not release his martial soul. Neville stood in front of Lexus, nodded, and said that it was fake if he wasn't nervous. After a difficult time crossing, he didn't want to be a commoner without soul power. This world still speaks with strength. Thank you very much, Grandpa. Neville said thank you, he was very satisfied. If it weren't for Lexus, he might have died on that winter night. Without him, whether someone would help him awaken his martial soul is a question. You child. Lexus waved his hand, with a smile on his face. He knew how to be grateful, and that's what makes a good child. I'm not afraid that the other party doesn't have the strength, but I'm afraid that they don't understand what gratitude is and what a white-eyed wolf is. It's disgusting everywhere. Lexus stroked his beard and saw Neville obediently close his eyes. Without hesitation, he turned his right hand towards Neville and began to deliver soul power. The awakening of martial souls, in other words, refers to the use of soul power to stimulate the body, leading to the manifestation of martial souls hidden within people's bodies. As for how the first soul master appeared, it is unknown. Under the influence of this soul power, Nevulet's body slowly rose and stopped about 1 meter above the ground. Time passed by minute by second, and after about 5 minutes, Lexus, who was maintaining soul power delivery, frowned. It's strange. A normal person can awaken their martial soul and it will appear in about 2 minutes at most. What is the situation with Xiaonaoe? Looking at the water-blue glow emanating from his entire body, Laxios murmured. From the light emanating from Nevulet's body, it can be seen that his martial soul should have water or ice attributes, but why hasn't his martial soul come out yet? It is almost impossible to say that a 6-year-old child can still hide his martial soul under the influence of his soul power. Even in a genius child, it's impossible. Why is Lexus also a peak soul warrior? Neville did not notice the passage of time outside, and under the influence of soul power, he seemed to have come to the world of the ocean. There is no other living thing around except for water. Neville, wrapped in water, only felt warmth without any discomfort. At that moment, a gentle and familiar voice rang out in Villette's mind. Villette, we meet again. What? Upon hearing these words, Villette trembled all over. Her familiar voice felt so surreal, and she shouldn't have appeared here. Moreover, her address clearly has some issues. Are you? Didn't you already guess? In the gentle female voice, there is a hint of mischief, like the liveliness of a young girl. Fucaros. Neville subconsciously said, he still felt a bit incredulous. Fucaros didn't die. And we also traveled together to Douluo Continent. What is the situation? Also, why would Fucaros call him Villette? He is not the true water dragon king, it's just a coincidence that he was called this name. Bingo, guess it right. It seems that the impression I left on you, Xayanawe, is very deep. Neville Wright. Fucaros, you got the wrong person. I'm not the Water King Novelette, but a mortal named Novelette. Upon hearing the voice of his supposed short-lived wife, Villette was very happy, but he was not the true Water Dragon King and did not want to deceive this god of justice. Did you make a mistake? Villette's explanation stunned Fucaros. How could she possibly have mistaken it? The little Navier in front of me is exactly the same as Navelette when he was a child. Moreover, the power of Gulong's great power lies in him. She once held some power, so how could she possibly admit it wrong? Could it be that Villette has lost his memory? Or rather, because of her deception, Xayanawe pretended not to know her. Perhaps it's because of time travel. Fucaros found herself not dead, but rather when she traveled the world with little Neville, she was completely stunned. Fortunately, the matter with Fengdan has been resolved, otherwise she wouldn't have been able to act up. Novelette, let's get to know each other again. I am the demon god Fucaros, the former god of justice and the god of water. Get to know each other again, why don't you show up? Neville roast in his heart. One day, I don't have the ability to transform into a human form yet. As if seeing through Villette's thoughts, Fucaros said lightly. It's not easy for her divinity to break and reunite again. At present, there is no ability to transform, unless it can absorb most of the energy to replenish or regain some of the power of the ancient dragon. Of course, she returned some of the ancient dragon's power to Novelette, so it was naturally impossible to obtain it from Novelette again. She automatically skipped this one. What? Can Fucaros see through his ideas? Neville blinked and thought in confusion. Also, is Fucaros currently in a pure water elf state? Ficus, the demon god, was originally an ordinary pure water elf, but after gaining the power of the previous generation of water god Egolia, she achieved the position of demon god, similar to the wind god Barbados. What do you want to do so much? If Fucaros can really see through what he's thinking, then, my short-lived wife. Didn't she also listen to this? At this thought, Villette couldn't help but blush and looked around strangely, not only water, but also water. Fucaros. Short life or something, wife or something, is Villette a bit strange? End of this chapter. Chapter 303. The Water King is myself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 303. The Water King is actually myself. Lexus never imagined that one day he would be sweating profusely because he helped someone awaken his martial soul. He is really numb. Hiss. Lexus took a cold breath and exclaimed in his heart that he was so terrifying, only awakening a martial soul. As for what? Just maintaining the awakening ceremony consumed 80% of his soul power. What situation? What exactly is the situation? That Villette is like a bottomless pit, constantly absorbing his soul power. If it were an ordinary person, Lexus would have cut off the soul power supply long ago, but this is his grandson. How can he cut off his future? The more peculiar it is, the more powerful its martial soul awakens. But he can't hold on anymore. Just as Lexus was sweating profusely and preparing to accept fate, Navelette, suspended 1 meter above the ground, underwent a transformation. I saw a faint water-blue figure appearing behind him. His appearance was 7 times similar to that of Novelette, who was awakening his martial soul at the moment. He had a righteous face, holding a cane, and 2 water-blue hair resembling dragon horns on top of his white hair at the same time. Novelette, who was awakening his martial soul, changed his hair from black to white and also had 2 strands of water-blue hair on his head. These were actually the dragon horns of the Water Dragon King. However, after the Water Dragon King appeared in human form, the shape and appearance of the dragon horns had changed. As for the cane, it did not appear, indicating that it was not a part of the martial soul. Lexus widened his eyes and muttered in disbelief, humans. Humanoid warriors. Martial souls. Human-shaped martial souls are not absent on Douluo Continent. Yes, very rare, none of them are incredibly powerful beings. Among them, the most representative one is the inheritance of the martial soul Hull. The six-winged angel. Lexus glanced at Villette and then at the figure behind him. It was so similar. It can be said that this figure is the grown-up Villette. How could it be like this? Mofei, Zayanawe really has an extraordinary background. He can't figure it out, it's really too strange. If you can't figure it out, don't think too much. The martial soul is diverse, maybe it's a mutated martial soul. On the Douluo Continent, anything that cannot be explained clearly can be explained by variation. Mutant soul skills, mutated martial souls, mutated soul rings, soul bones, etc. Neville was able to successfully awaken his martial soul, and Lexus was already very satisfied. What more would he want to do? The martial soul has awakened, and Lexus no longer needs to maintain soul power teleportation. Just as he was about to sever his soul power teleportation, the mutation happened again. I saw a water blue book slowly appearing in front of Novelette and then falling into his right hand. It has lines like waves on its body, which looks very extraordinary. Lexus was stunned for a moment, and Sun rubbed his eyes with his left hand. He shook his head in disbelief and murmured, twin martial souls. First there is a humanoid martial soul, and then there is a martial soul similar to a book. What is this situation? So Villette is actually a twin martial soul. Did he find a treasure? At that moment, Novelette opened his eyes, and he still felt a bit confused. Fucaros did not die and crossed to the Douluo Continent with him. However, she has encountered some problems and cannot maintain her human form. She needs sufficient energy to transform back into a human form. She can only temporarily reside in his sea of consciousness, and when she collects enough energy, she can once again break away from his sea of consciousness and transform into a human form. This kind of thing cannot be completed overnight. Navelette's mood was a bit heavy and gloomy. It was a good thing for him that Fucaros had not died. This short-lived wife was his favorite paper man in his past life. Cough cough. Okay, I didn't expect that Fucaros actually exists. Fucaros, I will help you reshape your body. Neville thought to herself. Outside the house, there is the sky, and the drizzling rain stops at this moment. The sunlight breaks through the dark clouds and shines back on the earth. Xiaonawe, you still like to cry so much. Ficus's teasing words were not heard by Villette. My grandson has an invincible posture. Upon hearing these words, Villette almost hunched over, a quick-witted moment that brought him back to his senses. I looked at Lexus in confusion. What was the situation? The old man is so excited. If you say you have the appearance of becoming a soul master, it's okay. I can accept the appearance of being banned. But how did you come up with this invincible posture? Previously, Novelette had not yet died from Fucaros and had also traveled with him to the Douluo Continent, which brought him to his senses and he did not notice his own changes. At this moment, if he felt something, he realized that his whole body was full of strength, and a book appeared in his right hand, The Eternal Flowing Ceremony. He is familiar with this book. Isn't this the specialty of the Water King Novelette? What's going on? The feeling of blood connections is not an illusion. My martial soul, is it the Eternal Flowing Ceremony? Nevelette blinked his eyes and felt something was wrong. He seemed to have undergone some changes himself. He only felt the abnormal activity of the water molecules around him, as if he could feel their emotions, and he condensed and controlled them. Twin martial souls, grandson, you have an invincible posture. Lexus finished speaking excitedly, regardless of whether he was sweating profusely or whether his appearance would embarrass Villette. He directly took out a mirror made of crystal from the storage soul guide and placed it in front of Villette. Neville Wright. What? Hiss, good guy, how could he become the same as Neville the Water King? After looking at the figure behind him, he was even more certain of one thing, another martial soul, which was Novelette. Is this really just a martial soul? Neville thought in confusion, but unfortunately, the figure behind him would not answer his question. No wonder Fucaros thinks I'm the Water King Novelette. Neville thought to himself, at this moment, he seemed to have realized something. Under the guidance of Lexus, Novelette quickly learned how to retrieve his martial soul. However, strangely enough, even after the soul was retrieved, his appearance remained unchanged from when he was possessed by the martial soul. Son, remember, never use the second martial soul unless absolutely necessary in the future. After saying these words, Lexus seemed to have thought of something, shook his head, and continued, that's not right. If someone is protecting you and they can't stop you from using the second martial soul, then using the second martial soul won't change anything. End of this chapter. Chapter 404. My grandson has the talent to become a god. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 404. My grandson has the talent to become a god. Choose one of these two martial souls as the first one, and hide the other one until it reaches the level of the title Douluo. Don't show it to others easily. For Lexus's words, of course Villette understood the reason for doing so and didn't ask much. He nodded and said, Old man, I understand. Don't you ask why. Lexus said with confusion, this is the time to showcase his knowledge, but little Neville didn't ask much, which made him a bit uncomfortable. Upon hearing these words, Villette's corner of the eye twitched. Lexus, with his quick questioning demeanor, really made him a bit overwhelmed. Why? No way, Villette decided to pretend not to know and ask. Haha. Twin martial souls are different from ordinary soul masters having one martial soul, as the name suggests, they have two martial souls. Breaking through the boundaries, obtaining a soul ring is enough for one martial soul, while the other martial soul does not need to obtain a soul ring. You can wait until your cultivation level is high before obtaining a soul ring. Think about it, after you break through to the soul Douluo, or even become a title Douluo, and then go get the soul ring for the second martial soul. Can it still be 100-year, 1000-year level soul ring? That's also why Grandpa said you have an invincible posture. As for why I asked you not to expose the twin martial souls, it's because Fufu is innocent and harbors a deep sense of guilt. There have been soul masters with twin martial souls before, but no one was able to successfully attach 9 soul rings to the second martial soul. But what if someone succeeded? If they don't have such qualifications, they will envy others for having such qualifications and assassinate such geniuses and demons. Before having enough strength, it's best not to expose it. Our 8 major families are united and not vegetarians, but those unreasonable assassinations are hard to defend against. In case there is a mistake before we grow up. Do you understand? Lexus patted Novelette's shoulder and earnestly taught him. I'm afraid that Villette's childlike nature wants to show off its differences from others, which goes against the way of seclusion. Being strong oneself is truly strong. Those who strive for fame and fortune on the surface have nothing to do with the hidden family, just take it as a joke. For Lexus's teachings, Vil nodded with a characteristic, and his heart was like a mirror, how could he not understand? Well, I understand. Lexus. After all, it was a mistake. Villette is really too smart, he doesn't have the sense of achievement to teach younger generations at all. Come on, test your innate soul power. Grandpa can sense that you have innate soul power in your body. As for the level, it's not too clear. After speaking these words, Lexus calmly took out a test crystal. This test crystal was not a cheap item used by the deacon of the Martial Soul Palace, but a high-end item that could test the soul power under the Soul King. It looks just slightly larger than a regular test crystal, and its function is not much different. As a peak soul fighter, it would be strange if he couldn't see that Novelette had innate soul power inside his body. Neville glanced at the crystal ball without hesitation and placed his right hand directly on it. Suddenly, an attraction came from above the crystal ball, beginning to absorb Nevillet's soul power, and shine brightly. Nevillet looked at the crystal ball in confusion. Oh my goodness, he is a twin martial soul, a water faucet King Nevillet, a divine artifact that will flow through the ages. But surprisingly, this crystal ball only lit up less than half. Is it possible that he is a waste? A waste born below level 5. Upon seeing this, Lexus swallowed his saliva. He had previously thought that Villet's innate soul power was not low, but to his surprise, it was not just low. There is no innate level 20 here. Don't say he saw it, he hasn't even heard of it. Innate full soul power, isn't it level 10? What is Villet's innate level 20? Old man, I'm not a waste born below level 5, am I? Neville asked subconsciously, he was very confused. Although there is not much soul power in the body, there is also quite a bit. Is such a massive soul power just the appearance of innate 3 or 4 levels? So, innate soul power, how powerful it should be. Upon hearing these words, Lexus twitched the corner of his eye and gave a strange glance at Villet. A waste born below level 5. If this is spread, I'm afraid I don't know how many soul masters are trying to kill him. How many soul masters in the entire Douluo Continent have innate soul power above level 5? There are only a few soul masters who can reach the innate 5th level, and those above the 5th level are even rarer. Wait, doesn't this kid think the crystal ball in his hand is for testing level 10 soul warriors? Glancing at the crystal ball in his hand, Lexus's mouth twitched again. Born at level 20. He picked up a peerless demon and came back. Even in his state of mind, he couldn't calm down for a long time. Twin martial souls, born at level 20, any of these 2 qualifications is worth millions, none of them in billions. 2 qualifications make 1 person, so does Nevillet possess the aura of becoming a god? Become that elusive, god. After having this idea, Lexus looked at Nevillet with a more peculiar expression. Did he smoke from his ancestral tomb, or did he spend all the luck left by his ancestors, in order to find such a grandson? Although the 8 major families did not have the title of Douluo as their seat, it is not simple. They can be considered as a powerful force that has been passed down for many years. Among them, there are naturally things that the nouveau riche forces do not know. That is, gods are real beings. However, it has been a long time since the Douluo Continent saw any deities. Zayanawe, this is not a test crystal for soul warriors' soul power, but a test crystal below level 50. Your innate soul power is level 20. Lexus pretended not to be shocked and said calmly. Level 20. I see. If Villet is lost in thought, innate soul power, level 20. It's not that he can't accept it, but rather that he feels a bit lower. How could the quality of these 2 martial souls be at level 20? Okay, before that, he thought he was only at level 3 or 4 and was a useless person. Unexpectedly, it was the old man who took the wrong test crystal. Zayanawe, don't easily say anything about your innate soul power level. When others ask you, just say you have innate full soul power. Remember, innate full soul power is only at level 10. Try not to fight anyone if possible. Lexus is heartbroken. His grandson's talent is too terrifying. If it were exposed, he wouldn't know if he could hold on. Tomorrow, Grandpa will take you to hunt soul rings. Let's go back and rest first. End of this chapter. Chapter 505. Exercise your power but bring a fake face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 505. Exercise your power, but wear a fake mask to disguise as night fell. Nevillet, who had just awakened his martial soul for less than 8 hours, still felt a bit confused. Looking at himself in the mirror, Villet's mood was very complicated. Water Dragon King, it's actually me. Gu Long has great power. At what point did I become the true Navulet? At the beginning, he thought he had awakened to the valiant soul of the Water King. Unexpectedly, after studying for a long time, he realized that this was actually a true martial soul. As for why there is a ghostly appearance in adulthood, it is unknown to Villette. The essence of the martial soul represents that this martial soul is himself, and he is the Lord of the Water Faucet, Navulet. This is also one of the reasons why his appearance have not changed even though he has taken back his martial soul. My power, why? Since he is the true ruler of the Water Faucet and still holds complete power over the ancient dragon, why is his power so weak? Wait, he is the Water Dragon King, and so is Villette. So, according to the statement that the longer the dragon lives, the stronger its strength, he has only been born for 6 years now. 6 years, it seems understandable that one's strength is so weak. Navulet touched his chin and thought to himself. Why don't I have any memories of the Tibet continent? Since I am the Lord of Navulet, what is the reason that led me to cross the Douluo Continent? Also, was my past life just illusory? Which one is truly me? Not to mention that Navulet was conflicted, it was also because after Fucaros learned about Navulet's situation, he was unable to provide a reasonable explanation. This Villette seems strange. He knows what happened, but he doesn't have those detailed memories. Moreover, there are some memories of a different world added. Could it be that Navulet was also a descendant? Fucaros and Navulet were both a bit confused and couldn't figure it out. In the end, they simply didn't think about it. After a while, maybe they naturally understood. Navulet sat cross-legged and began his first cultivation, which was actually basic meditation. Through meditation, he guided external soul power into his body. On the Douluo Continent, there is currently no complete set of cultivation techniques except for Tang San. Soul masters use their innate soul power to meditate and strengthen their soul power. That's also why people without innate soul power are destined not to become soul masters. Without innate soul power, basic meditation cannot achieve it, and naturally there will be no soul power generated. In fact, Villette doesn't need to practice at all. He just needs to live well and endure, and in 1,000 or 800 years, he will be invincible in the world. Dragon, the longer you live, the stronger your strength. From the moment Villette became the Water Dragon King, his lifespan could no longer be limited. As long as he didn't accidentally fall, he could live forever. Even if it falls unexpectedly, it will recover again at some point in time. Of course, at that time, Navulet could no longer be considered Navulet. The first-generation Dragon King died, and the second-generation Dragon King returned with some memories of the first-generation Dragon King, but he is no longer the first-generation Dragon King. Strange. Navulet suddenly opened his eyes, filled with confusion. There is a rule on the Douluo Continent that no one can break unless one transcends the consciousness of the Douluo Continent. However, after transcending the consciousness of the Douluo Continent, one does not need to abide by this rule. That is, soul masters must obtain soul rings in order to enhance their strength. No matter how you obtain the soul ring, whether it's hunting soul beasts, self-condensing soul rings, soul beast transformation, or divine bestowed soul rings, you must have a soul ring in order to break through a large level. But during the cultivation just now, Villette didn't feel any bottleneck at all. Although his soul power did not break through, he could clearly feel that it had improved a lot. There are 2 bottlenecks in innate level 20 soul power before obtaining the first soul ring. One is for soul warriors to break through the bottleneck of soul masters, and the other is for soul masters to break through the bottleneck of great soul masters. However, these 2 bottlenecks seem to be non-existent for Navulet. With just a slight cultivation, he felt his soul power improving. Hiss. As if thinking of something, Villette took a cold breath and murmured, I shouldn't have this restriction, right? No need for soul rings, soul power can also break through. If there really is no such restriction, whether or not to have a soul ring doesn't seem to be very important, right? As a complete dragon, an ordinary soul ring is not right. Even a 100,000-year soul ring would only stain his body. Soul masters need to acquire the power of soul beasts in order to break through to the next level of cultivation system, which should not exist at all. Just be weak and weak, it's all external forces. If one day the soul ring cannot be used properly, the soul master is just an ordinary group of people with empty soul power but don't know how to use it. Soul masters of Fire Phoenix, martial souls like Ma Hongjun actually use flamethrowing as a soul skill rather than an instinct, and Tang San, isn't plant entanglement an instinct? Why is it also a soul skill? Heterogeneity is often abnormal. Just like the gods of wind and rock, they all wear a fake glass bead. Do I need to wear a fake soul ring? It's a bit unpleasant to exercise one's own power while wearing a fake mask to disguise oneself. At this moment, Novelette seemed to understand why Tivit, as he was, would resist wearing fake glass beads. Dragon, born strong, is the pinnacle of elemental creatures, and arrogance is inevitable. If it is not necessary, never add any real soul ring or soul bone. As for disguising soul rings, Novelette has a way. He can control water, and although he is not very powerful now, forming 2 water-blue soul rings is still not a problem. Is it really good to deceive the old man like this? After a while, Novelette thought of a set of deceiving statements from Lexus, but should he, who is upright and just, do this? Okay, this is a white lie. I'm sure the old man wouldn't blame him either. So Villette, you've been studying hard. Suddenly, the teasing voice of Fucaros came to mind, which left Novelette stunned and then turned red. Fucaros, I'm not who I used to be anymore. Novelette gritted his head and said, although he doesn't have any memories of the Tivit continent, he does have memories on the blue star. He still knows what happened to Tivit, otherwise he wouldn't have said that Fucaros was a short-lived wife. End of this chapter. Chapter 606. Neville Wright. He slandered me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 606. Neville Wright. He slandered me. Time flies, 6 years later. Barak Kingdom, Soto City. A wealthy young master with a nearly 100% turn-back rate walked expressionlessly on the street. He is about 1.8 meters tall, with long hair that reaches his waist, and his hair has a white background mixed with some aqua blue. Dressed in a navy blue attire, with black gloves on both hands, he held something resembling a cane in his hand. In the blink of an eye, it has been so many years since I arrived in Douluo Continent. The speaker was none other than Novelette. At this time, he was almost the same as the judge of Feng Dan. His clothes were also made according to the judge. As for why you need to wear gloves, as for water properties, anyone who understands it knows. If you soak your hands in water for a long time, they will wrinkle, without any suspicion of being forced. In these 6 years, Neville Wright has appeared openly in the eyes of the world for the first time, because he is really different from ordinary children. If there were any accidents, his situation would be exposed and he would be in danger. Villette himself is not very worried about being exposed, but Lexus doesn't know his specific situation. Wow, third brother, look at this handsome guy. A playful voice rang out, causing Novelette to come back to his senses and look towards the source of the sound. What caught the eye were 2 people, one of whom was a young girl with fair skin, beautiful appearance, and long legs. The proportion of legs was very exaggerated, but it didn't seem out of place. The other boy, on the other hand, appeared somewhat ordinary, perhaps due to other reasons. His skin was a bit dark, and his face, if thrown into the crowd, had no sense of existence. This face is quite compatible with the assassin. The young man frowned upon hearing these words, indicating that his mood was not very good. This is the first time he has heard the girl next to him praise someone for being handsome. Previously, due to his unremarkable appearance, the girl next to him never mentioned the word handsome. Following the direction of the girl's fingers, when he saw Villette, he was stunned and his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Hiss. The young man took a cold breath, and this person made him understand what it means. A stranger is like a jade, and the young master is unparalleled in the world. This temperament and appearance are only 3 points inferior to the legendary readers. A feeling called jealousy breeds in the hearts of young people. You should know that he has never had such an emotion before. As an assassin, having a good appearance and being handsome is not a good thing. As a person in the dark, how can one complete a task despite being noticed by too many people? Xiao Wu, this person looks like a young master from a big family, not a good person. Let's go. The young man whispered to the girl beside him. They are the protagonist and female lead of the original novel, who has just arrived in Soto City. Tang San and Xiao Wu. Neville Wright. This is not Feng Dan, there is no trial court, otherwise, he will definitely sue this unattractive young man for defamation. He slandered me. What does it mean to be a young master of a big family and not a good person at first glance? Does his valet look like a bad person? Is there anyone who can be more just than him? What is this not slander? Third brother, you're not right about that. He doesn't seem like a bad person, he's just a bit aloof. Xiao Wu said with a bewildered expression. The pursuit of beauty is not exclusive to men, and the same applies to women. Xiao Wu is the first time she has seen such a handsome person. Of course, she only praised Neville's appearance without any thoughts. Although the mainland of love may have a decline in intelligence, it is not love at first sight, at most it is just a matter of seeing the color and intention. Upon hearing these words, Tang San's face collapsed, and the corner of his eye twitched. He didn't know if the handsome man in front of him was really a bad person. I just found an excuse to take Xiao Wu away. Unexpectedly, Xiao Wu helped a stranger speak. Glancing at Villette twice and then at Xiao Wu, shouldn't this person have a way to take death? Neville Wright. Without saying a word, Tang San said that he had a way to take death, which would be unfair to Villette. Fortunately, there is no record of a plan to deal with this in the Xiantian treasure record, otherwise, Villette may have a way to take death. As a assassin, Tang San, the children of the Tang clan in central Sichuan, mostly acted according to the sect rules recorded in the Xiantian treasure record. Of course, sect rules did not allow external disciples to secretly learn the Xiantian treasure record, but he, as an external disciple, refused to listen. Xiao Wu saw Tang San fell silent and didn't think much. With a smile on her face, she jumped up and down to Novelette. With her hands behind her and her body slightly leaning forward, she said, "Handsome little brother, would you like to meet him?" Before Novelette could speak, Xiao Wu continued, "My name is Xiao Wu, a dancing dance." Neville Wright. After looking at Xiao Wu and Tang San, at this moment, Villette suddenly realized that it was these two. He said who it was. After all, it's normal not to recall the time spent traveling for so many years. After all, who would think about people who don't care at all every day? Hello, I am the highest judge of the Soto City Soul Fighting Arena. You can call me Navulet by my surname. Novelette said expressionlessly. That's right, the So. Called Supreme Magistrate of Soto City was arranged by the old man Lexus for Novelette to travel on the continent. Whether Neville Wright takes office or not, he has a nominal position as the highest judge in Soto City. Soul Fighting Arena, the highest judge. Xiao Wu murmured with a bewildered expression, what is the soul fighting field? The referee knows, but what is the highest judge? So, Villette. Listen carefully to this name. Tang San also followed suit at this moment, and he couldn't find any flaws in Navelette's performance. This expressionless expression seemed to reject people from 1,000 miles away, and he had no interest in Xiao Wu at all. It was Tang San who, with the heart of a villain, indulged in the belly of a gentleman, commonly known as overthinking. Soul Fighting Arena, Judge. Tang San was also the first to hear about soul fighting field and the position of a judge. Hello, my name is Tang San and I am Xiao Wu's brother. May I ask what Soul Fighting Field does? Tang San said calmly, not feeling inferior, even when facing a young master from a big family. Ha ha ha. Two rural bumpkins. Without waiting for Villette to say anything, the pedestrians beside laughed. I don't even know about the Soul Fighting Field. The place where you were born is really a small place. Soul Fighting Field is one of the few entertainment venues on the Douluo Continent, covering the entire Douluo Continent. I don't even know what the Soul Fighting Field is. It's not someone from a small place. What else can it be? End of this chapter. Chapter 707. Sorry, I remembered some happy things. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 707. Sorry, I remembered some happy things. I didn't expect this young master to be the judge of the Soul Fighting Field. I've admired him for a long time. The pedestrian arched his hand at Novelette and complimented him. The Soto City Soul Battlefield is not an ordinary force. This so-called judge should be related to the referee, right? The highest referee, also known as the referee, is the most powerful referee and the leader among referees. Upon hearing these words, Villette's corner of the eye twitched. He had just taken office, and they said they had long admired him. Good guy, really good guy. You're welcome. Nevelette said a indifferent sentence. He's nothing, it's just that Xiao Wu and Tang San are extremely angry. They really don't know, that's why they asked this question. Unexpectedly, they said they were from the countryside. Okay, it was originally from the countryside. The Soto City Soul Battlefield is located in the center of Soto City. If you have time, you can go and have a look. I have something else to do, so I won't stay any longer. After Neville finished speaking, she turned around and left, leaving Tang San and Xiao Wu looking at each other. Why is this person like this? He looks quite handsome, why does he look like an ice cube? Xiao Wu crossed her waist with both hands and said indignantly. She thought that Villette would explain to them what a soul fighting arena was, but she didn't expect that the other party wouldn't even pay attention to them. Tang San glanced at Neville's back, pondering for a moment, then shook his head. He decided that when he had time, he must go and learn about this so-called soul fighting field. Seeing that Villette left like this, Tang San breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He really didn't have any interest in Xiao Wu, that's great. Xiao Wu, maybe they really have something to do. After the registration is over, let's go to the soul fighting field when we have time. Tang San patted Xiao Wu's shoulder and comforted her. Xiao Wu. What is the situation? Why would Tang San speak for Novelette at this time? Didn't he say before that Villette was a bad person? Humph, the staff of the soul fighting field have hundreds or even thousands of gold soul coins every minute. How could they have time to chat with you here? Just a few words with you, and you might lose hundreds of gold soul coins. Who do you think you are? The pedestrian sneered and said. As if thinking of something, the pedestrian continued, I didn't expect this young master to be the judge of the soul fighting field. I haven't seen him before, so he must be a newcomer. Let's go to the soul fighting field and experience it. What? Just now, you should be the one who has been admired and admired for a long time, right? He is new here, do you think he has long admired him? Hundreds or even thousands of gold soul coins every minute. Xiao Wu and Tang San looked shocked. They had originally disliked this pedestrian, but they didn't expect the other person to say such things. You should know that Xiao Wu and Tang San are currently just great soul masters. They can receive 10 gold soul coins from the Martial Soul Hall every month, which is 10 per person. In a year's time, it only adds up to 240 golden soul coins. But how could the other party receive hundreds or even thousands of gold soul coins every minute? Uncle, are you deceiving people? Yes, Xiao Wu doesn't believe it at all. how could you possibly earn so many soul coins? Oh, you're from the countryside, but you still don't admit it. If you have time, go to the soul fighting field and have a look yourself. That's the real Sales Cave. The pedestrian was an uncle in his 40s. When he said these words, he had a look of longing on his face. After saying these words, he glanced at Tang San and Xiao Wu, and left with some disdain. Tang San, Xiao Wu. Is this Soto City? Is this a big city? When I was in Notting City. Well, Tang San has met me before, just a gatekeeper who has a way to kill me. The two of them twitched their eyes, exchanged a glance, and their good mood instantly became very bad. Xiao Wu, let's find a store to stay first. Shrek College still has 2 days left for enrollment. For a long time, Tang San said softly. As soon as he arrived in Soto City, he was hit hard. They shamelessly called him a country bumpkin, but he couldn't refute it. You should know how beautiful Tang San was when he was in Notting City. Many intermediate colleges are vying for admission. But Tang Sanji was not here, so he followed the master's arrangement and came to this Soto City. Okay, third brother. Xiao Wu was a bit lacking in interest. Even if that handsome guy ignored her before, it would be fine. Even an ordinary pedestrian would mock her. Is it because Xiao Wu is not beautiful and her figure is not good enough? On Neville's side, he didn't care about the interlude of knowing Tang San and Xiao Wu. Instead, he remembered something slightly more important in the city of Soto. This thing is specifically designed to dispel the Soul Master's vigorous energy. Whether used directly as a hidden weapon or as a material for making advanced hidden weapons, it is indispensable. Of course, this thing is also one of the materials used to make high-level soul guides. For dragons, shiny gold is very attractive, and of course, valuable treasures are equally so. In no time, Villette found Fran's small shop, which was a soul guide grocery store. As the saying goes, this is not Fengdan, there is no trial court. Otherwise, the trademark used by Fran would be enough to bring him to trial. 2 crossed swords, 1 hammer, and 1 tower, this is a lawsuit against the 3 major powers. Novelette shook his head and walked into the grocery store calmly. Fran's eyes widened in vain in the grocery store, and after a brief glance at Novelette, he immediately sat up from the lounge chair. It hasn't been open for many days, where did this big fat sheep come from? Young master, come and give me the golden soul coin. Welcome. With a smile on his face, Fran quickly walked up to Neville and said. He is not good-looking and wears sunglasses, making him look very penetrating. With a twitch in his eye, Villette calmly glanced at Fran. This guy probably treats him like a fat sheep, right? It's very likely. Unfortunately, it's going to disappoint Fran. No need for that, I'll just take a look at it casually. Novelette waved his hand and said. After hearing these words, Fran's enthusiasm decreased a bit, but he didn't give up easily. Finally, a young master who looks like he has a lot of golden soul coins arrived. How could he give up so easily? This young master, although the small shop may not be very good, it contains the essence of heaven and earth. Among these soul guides, there may be some ancient relics left behind. If you choose one, young master, you will make a profit. Puff. Neuvillette couldn't help but laugh out loud. Sorry, I remembered some happy things. Fran said that among these rags, there are ancient wonders. Ha 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 Fran. He always feels like something's wrong, and he can't say anything. End of this chapter. Chapter 808. Fairness and Fairness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 808. Fairness and Fairness, young master, what happy thing has come to your mind? Fran said with a dark face. He always felt that the laughter from the person in front of him earlier was not right, as if he was mocking him. Neville Wright. That's right, I'm just mocking you. The Tang Tang Soul Saint had fallen to such a level that he was mocked by a nobleman. It was already good that Fran did not get angry on the spot. The third and of my second uncle's family, who is also my little nephew, has become a soul master today. It's such a beautiful thing. Neville said calmly, as if there really was such a thing going on. What? Fran was taken aback, blinked his eyes, and looked at Villette with a bewildered expression. Just becoming a soul master, still such a distant relative. So far, can we count it as a relative? Just as Fran was about to say something, Villette pointed to the impurity crystal next to him and said, "Boss, how do you sell this crystal?" After hearing these words, Fran didn't think much. Instead, he looked in the direction pointed out by Villette and found that it was the crystal filled with impurities. He was originally quite happy, and his mood instantly dropped. This crystal is full of impurities, and selling a gold soul coin would make the other party blind. This young master's identity and status are clearly extraordinary. With his attire alone, it is impossible for him to obtain the 8,000 gold soul coins. Fran did not believe that Novelette did not know the value of this crystal. I think I wanted to find an excuse to leave. Oh, it's a pity that this big. Cough, young master. With this in mind, Fran waved his hand and said, "If you like it, you can give me a gold soul coin." After saying these words, Fran walked towards the recliner in a secluded manner and lay back on the chair, looking relaxed. Novelette was also polite and picked up the crystal from the table. After a slight observation, he placed it into the storage bracelet on his wrist, Storage Soul Guide. "Boss, although you don't realize the value of this crystal, I can't pretend not to know. Justice and fairness are my lifelong pursuits." After saying these words, Neville took out a gold card and placed it on the table in Fran's surprised eyes. It was a savings card worth 10,000 gold soul coins. The value of plate crystals is not less than 10,000 gold soul coins for useful people, and not more than 1 gold soul coin for useless people. Novelette gave 10,000 soul coins for fair and equal trading. He doesn't lack these 10,000 soul coins, there's no need to have a picky mentality. After putting down the gold soul coin savings card, Novelette turned around and left, leaving Fran with a dull expression on his face. After about 3 seconds, Fran exploded and the recliner under him collapsed. He quickly came to the table and picked up the golden savings card. He looked at it a little before murmuring, "Is this young master really stupid or fake stupid? Is that broken crystal really worth 10,000 gold soul coins?" The savings card in his hand is real, and Fran is also a soul saint powerhouse, so he still has this insight. He's not ordinary. Fairness, impartiality. Is there really fairness and justice in Douluo Continent? With a loud bang, Fran gave himself a big mouth. As a passerby, he naturally knew that the strong on Douluo Continent were respected, and any fairness and justice were false. But how can he mock a young man's dream of pursuing fairness and justice? He really deserves it. Hey, Fran, don't even have a child who can see through. Fran shook his head and carefully put away his savings card. He didn't know what the broken crystal was like, but the 10,000 gold soul coins were real. If it weren't for being too poor, why would I have opened a small shop to deceive and deceive? After a long time, Fran finally came to his senses, with a golden light flashing in his eyes. He had already made a decision in his heart. This small shop cannot be opened anymore. Novelette didn't know that with just one sentence and 10,000 soul coins, Fran had to close his shop and not rely on it to deceive people in the future. Of course, there is another reason why Fran closed his store. Can you take out 10,000 gold soul coins without blinking your eyes, and the background behind you can be simple? If the other party finds out that the broken crystal is not worth 10,000 gold soul coins and comes knocking on it, can Fran not run away when he thinks of this? It can only be said that Fran overthought it. It was just 10,000 gold soul coins, and Lexus wouldn't have come knocking on him. After leaving Fran's small shop, Villette looked around and felt a bit confused. Over the years, Lexus has protected him too well, fearing that his talent may be discovered by powerful people, and has never dared to let him stay too far away. Twin martial souls, born at level 20, such a talent cannot be ignored by Lexus. If any talent is revealed, then Villette is likely to be pursued by other major forces. Even the other 7 families of the 8 major families, no one knows the true talent of Neuvillette. It can be seen how good Lexus's confidentiality work is. As for why Neville came out to wander alone, it was because he saw that Neville's 6 soul rings had turned into 4 good guy. The soul ring still has a hidden element. Lexus did not blame Neuvillette for concealing himself, but instead patted Neuvillette's shoulder with satisfaction, saying, "What a child has grown up. Be cautious, it's good. This way we can live longer." Lexus also educated Neuvillette that you should not have 4 soul rings now, but 3. Upon hearing these words, Villette's mouth twitched. Sure enough, Jiang was still old and spicy. Isn't it agreed that the average IQ per person is negative? Why did he encounter all of them, old 6? Lexus is actually right in saying so. He is now 12 years old, even if he is born with full soul power, 3 soul rings are already good, while 4 soul rings are too genius. These soul rings, like fake glass beads, are not real soul rings at all. If you want a few, you can have a few. The true soul power level of Neuvillette is currently around 63 levels, because the longer the dragon lives, the stronger the buff, and the more he works hard to cultivate, which is why he has today's soul power level. At this moment, Villette frowned and someone nearby was fighting souls. His perception is not even comparable to that of Lexus, the pinnacle of soul Douluo. Why? Because the surrounding water molecules are constantly transmitting information to him. Everything has emotions, and water is no exception. As the pinnacle creature of water elements, Neuvillette can feel the emotions of all water elements. At this time, in this direction, are they Tang San and Dai Mubai? Neville murmured and then walked towards the Rose Hotel. End of this chapter. Chapter 909. Revenge of the Dragon King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 909. Revenge of the Dragon King. The battle between Tang San and Dai Mubai can be considered one of the famous scenes, and it was also his first time losing the soul battle in profile. Of course, Tang San himself could not give up, but rather said that if he were to fight between life and death, he was confident that he would die with Dai Mubai. Tang San only thinks that Dai Mubai is a respectable opponent, rather than having the way to die. It can be seen that Dai Mubai's aura of supporting role is very strong. As Villette walked, he thought of it this way in his heart. Suddenly, his footsteps paused, and he vaguely remembered what had happened before. Tang San probably glanced at him and thought he had a way to die, right? It always feels very likely, after all, there is still Xiao Wu shouting, "Handsome guy," and stacking buffs on the side. Tang San's mind is moving, and if there is no way to take death, it may be abnormal. I didn't see his eyebrows furrow and his face turn as black as carbon. Well, Tang San's skin color was already a bit dark, perhaps due to his frequent blacksmithing. Moreover, his current appearance looks more like Tang Hao, although not ugly, it doesn't look much better, it's just a very ordinary kind. Thinking of this, Villette shook his head helplessly, feeling a bit amused. Apart from that, he had no other thoughts. Then continue walking towards the Rose Hotel. Hiss. The girl not far away took a cold breath and looked like Villette. She had never seen her before. She has never seen such a handsome person since she was so big, and her temperament is impeccable. However, he seems a bit strange. Like her father, he likes to hold a cane. After spitting out a mouthful of turbid air, the girl followed silently. The girl was wearing a light blue dress, with the hem just above her knees, revealing her pure white calves. Not far from this girl, there was a pair of eyes staring straight at Neuvillette, but her thoughts were different from this girl. She was just a little curious about Novelette. After some thought, the girl in black tight-fitting clothes quietly followed behind the two of them. Novelette, you're really popular among girls. Suddenly, the teasing voice of Fucaros rang out in Novelette's mind, which made Novelette somewhat puzzled. Isn't it normal for him to be popular among girls just because of his appearance? Villette has been used to this kind of thing for a long time and doesn't feel any discomfort. Fucaros, what you're saying? Without waiting for Villette to finish speaking, he felt an anomaly himself. Alright, he understood. It turned out that two young girls were secretly following him, which attracted the teasing of Fucaros. Helplessly shaking his head, Villette didn't care about the little tale behind him. Fucaros, by the way, if two elements with mutually exclusive properties have the energy form of water, can you absorb it? This question was actually asked by Villette a long time ago, but he was not sure about his guess. Where is the most energy and easiest to obtain on Douluo Continent? Apart from the Lake of Life, then it is the Eye of Ice and Fire. The Ice and Fire two eyes were formed after the fall of the Water Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King in the divine realm of Douluo Continent. Among them, the water element has sufficient power and energy, which should be able to replenish the energy of Fucaros. The eyes of Ice and Fire are divided into Ice Spring and Fire Spring. What Villette can be certain of is that Fucaros should be okay with absorbing Ice Spring, but what about Fire Spring? Although the energy form is water, the true attribute of the Fire Spring should be fire, and it is unclear whether Fucaros can absorb it. Water form. Elements that repel each other. Fucaros has some doubts. Yes, one is ice and the other is fire. Currently, Fucaros has not undergone any transformation, otherwise he might have a twitch in the corner of his eye. How can he achieve both ice and fire attributes to be in the form of water? Pure elemental energy. I cannot determine until I see it. However, it is highly likely that it can be absorbed. After all, she is the demon god Fucaros. After saying these words, Fucaros seemed to think of something else and continued, so Villette, why do you always want me to condense into a human form? I think it's good to be like this now. The prophecy that Maple Dan would be destroyed has been resolved without the threat of divine reason. I don't have any pressure now, and you take me to watch this world, which is something I couldn't even imagine before. Neville Wright. After becoming the water god, Fucaros didn't have a few days of peaceful life. When Egolia passed on the position of the water god and the power of the demon god to Fucaros, the responsibility of saving Maple Dan also fell on Fucaros. Shouldn't you? Fucaros has a strange voice. Shouldn't you still be thinking about that? Wife or something? Neville Wright. Ignoring Fucaros' words, Novelette pretended not to hear and continued walking towards the Rose Hotel. However, his slightly red ears betrayed him, indicating that Novelette's heart was not calm. Fucaros. Good guy, is Villette so persistent? What kind of short-lived wife? After so many years, he still wants to save his short-lived wife. A short-lived wife is equal to Fucaros. This guy. Fucaros murmured, saying that she is currently in pure water elf form, otherwise she might have blushed. I have been a god for 500 years, but at the same time, I have been trapped for 500 years. I am constantly thinking about how to deceive the heavens, and my heart is exhausted. When Fucaros first crossed over, he didn't have much concept of what kind of emotions, what kind of love, and so on. Reviving life is much more exciting than before, and for Fucaros, he is already very satisfied. Although she cannot leave the sea of consciousness of Novelette now, she is able to observe the outside world through Novelette, without worries, invincible enemies, and crises that may be destroyed at any time. This is much better than before, much better. As long as she accumulates enough energy, she can break free from the sea of consciousness of Novelette and transform back into a human form. Gradually accumulating, it may take hundreds of years, and this time is not much for her. There is no sword hanging on my head, everything is fine, just a few hundred years. But she looked at Villette as if she was in a hurry. Poop, isn't it because I deceived him for 500 years and gave him this strange idea? Should we transform or not? Revenge from the Dragon King. I'm so embarrassed. Fucaros thought a lot, mostly about married life. When she thought about the Dragon King's revenge, she felt that the transformation could be slowed down. Besides, isn't this not enough energy yet? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Ning Rongrong, you are so smart. Yes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Ning Rongrong, you are so smart. Yes, you are so smart. In no time, Villette arrived at the Rose Hotel. At this moment, the Rose Hotel was a bit chaotic, with soul masters dueling. For ordinary people, it was like a disaster. It was about how fast they could run, and it was best to stay away. This is the way for ordinary people to survive. When facing off with soul masters, soul skills have no eyes, especially for limited-range soul skills, and there are many civilians who are accidentally injured by these soul skills. Although there are explicit regulations that soul masters are not allowed to engage in private soul fights within the city, and if there are any issues that can be resolved at the soul fighting arena, Daimubai clearly did not take this regulation seriously. I can't blame him either. He has already booked a room here, but the new one is not sensible, and with Xiao Wu provoking on the side, how can Daimubai tolerate it? The purpose of cultivation is not to endure. Soul masters have temperaments. If they don't teach Tang San and Xiao Wu a lesson at this time, isn't he practicing for nothing? Novelette had just stepped into the hotel when a girl in a blue dress and a girl in black tight-fitting clothes followed in one after another. What? So I came to see soul fighting. ×2 These two people are Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing, respectively. After Ning Rongrong walked into the hotel, there was no reaction, but Zhu Zhuqing was slightly taken aback and looked at Daimubai, who was fighting against Tang San, lost in thought. This martial soul, this she shouldn't have mistaken the person. Apart from Daimubai, who else in the outside world has eyes with abnormal pupils and martial souls with evil eyes and white tigers? Navalette didn't know that due to his reasons, the two women who shouldn't have appeared here and became the audience. Tang San, your martial arts are quite impressive, but the Soul Master duel is not just about your martial arts. First soul skill. White Tiger Protection Barrier. Daimubai was a bit puzzled. Although Tang San's martial soul was not a beast martial soul, but just an ordinary blue-silver grass, he could fight back and forth with him in a martial soul-possessed state. It really surprised Daimubai a bit. His strength is not weak, and he has an additional increase in soul rings compared to Tang San. His physical strength and beast martial soul increase will be much higher than Tang San's. First soul skill. Blue-silver entanglement. Answer Daimubai, it's just Tang San's kiss. Cough, blue-silver entangled. Handsome guy, who do you think they can win? In the hotel lobby, there was a tense and exciting soul battle, and Ning Rongrong, dressed in a light blue dress, was not interested at all. Instead, he quietly came to Navelette's side and said. She saw that Villette seemed very interested in soul fighting, which was why she fell in love with him. Upon hearing these words, Navelette glanced slightly, with a slanted eye and a lowered eyebrow towards Ning Rongrong on the side. Ning Rongrong's height is about 1.6 meters, which is one head short of Navelette's height. It is normal to look at her with this kind of gaze when her head is still. Isn't this the girl who followed me? She didn't even pay attention to soul fighting, okay. Hello, Mississippi. It doesn't matter to me who wins or loses. Neville shook her head gently and said. What? The indifferent appearance of Villette made Ning Rongrong somewhat uncomfortable, and she didn't know that it didn't matter who won or lost. She knows, okay. I just want to talk to Neville. It's not that I intentionally distanced myself from Miss, but because of my profession as a Seoul Arena referee, I cannot have too many personal relationships to avoid being accused of unfairness when on the Seoul Arena. Believe in Miss's wisdom, it should not be difficult to understand. Neville still said indifferently, but his gaze was on Tang San and Dai Mubai. His words were not loud, but the people present could hear them clearly, even Tang San and Dai Mubai, who were fighting souls, heard them. The two of them were slightly stunned and looked in the direction of Villette. Is it him? Referee. Tang San had seen Neville before, but he didn't quite understand the soul fighting field and the judge. Dai Mubai is different. He often wanders around the soul fighting arena, and he has never seen this referee who is even more handsome than him. However, there is one thing that Villette is right about, which makes Dai Mubai not doubt his identity. As a referee, it is almost impossible to make friends with others, at least not on the surface. However, Dai Mubai didn't think much either. Who knows why the new judge from the soul fighting arena would appear here? Wait, is it because he wants to practice his skills? Isn't Dai Mubai currently fighting against Tang San? Thinking of this, Dai Mu's eyes twitched and he didn't take this matter to heart. Xiaowu glanced at Novelette and seemed to understand why Novelette didn't want to talk to her more because of his profession. Is he a referee? He is really a handsome guy who is responsible for his profession. He is handsome, speaks gently, and is also responsible for his profession. Tang San. Shouldn't you care about me now? Will you be beaten to death by Dai Mubai? That's for sure. Ning Rongrong has hands on her hips, with a proud and delicate appearance. She is very intelligent. How could you not understand what Villette said? Judge, is it a soul fighting arena? Ning Rongrong secretly jotted down Neville's profession and workplace, and prepared to have a chance encounter with Neville when he had time. Being able to serve as a referee at such a young age indicates that Neville's strength cannot be underestimated. Being a referee in the soul fighting arena also requires strength. At critical moments, players need to calm down. It's not enough just to speak loudly, but also to have the ability to suppress them. In the soul fighting arena, the lowest title for contestants is Soul Master. Even if Villette is responsible for this kind of competition, he must at least have the strength of a great Soul Master or even a Soul Master level. Seeing the great Soul Master and Soul Lord face each other without changing their colors, the probability of Villette being a Soul Lord is extremely high. Ning Rongrong, you are so smart. Yeah, you're so smart. Void dialogue, handsome guy, would you like to meet me? My name is Ning Rongrong and I am an auxiliary Soul Master. I am only an auxiliary Soul Master and cannot participate in solo battles. It shouldn't affect your profession, will it? Upon hearing Ning Rongrong's words, Villette trembled all over and looked at the girl in the blue dress with some surprise. Wow, this girl is actually Ning Rongrong. On the Douluo Continent, there are one or two major troubles. Real trouble, not praising her for being big compared to the girl in black clothes next to her. Wait, isn't this girl Zhu Zhuqing? Her features are too obvious, right? Hello Ning Rongrong, I am the highest judge of the Soto City Soul fighting field. You can call me Neville by my surname. It's so cold, it feels so good. Wait, the highest judge. Ning Rongrong was taken aback for a moment, and the referee could also be classified into 3, 6, or 9 grades. This highest judge, end of this chapter.